Hello everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk episode 676, recorded today on Wednesday the 7th of July, which may or may not go down in football history because England are playing in the semi-final of the European Cups, and if they win, it'll be the first time they've been in a major final for something like 55 years. So I'm quite excited. I'm going to be dashing off to watch this at home with some few friends. I know soccer's not for everybody, but I'm telling you, I am excited, and yes, this is the culmination of stuff. And like I said, I'm not really that into football, but hey. And I've got a new mic position, which is really stupid because every time I move my hand vigorously, I knock the bottom of it. So I'm going to have to rethink that. But I was thinking I'd have something that just sort of came in at an angle, and I can't figure out the way to do it because it has to sort of come down and up. Anyway, that's really neither here nor there. This is the podcast to do with music technology, recording, synthesizers, electronic music, all of those things. You can find us on all good places. We're on Spotify, we're on Alexa, we're on Google, we're on iTunes. In audio format. We also stream this live to Facebook Live as well as Twitch, where you can see us. But if you're interested in supporting us, we also have a Patreon, which in fact we put the pre-show and ad-free versions of all our videos up there. So even at the minimum, you're going to get that out of us, as well as other exclusive videos. Coordinates are up there on the screen if you're watching, but if not, it's patreon.com/Sonicstate, and you can join us for a paltry £2 a month or £4.50, which is not even a cup of coffee a month. Astonishing value, I think you'll find. Anyway, thank you very much for everybody for joining us. I just want to say hi to everybody in the chat room. We've got our friends over there in the chat, also in the IRC, and we've also got the Discord. If you're interested in joining us on Discord, we've got a Sonic Discord, bit.ly/Sonic Discord. We'll get you in there. That's a never expiring invite. That's what I was looking for. Those are the words. Anyway, we have a full panel this week, and we want to say, well, hello to everybody. Let's start with Mr. Charles Chicky Reeves, who's there in London in his studio, chickyandcoco.com. Yes. Lovely to have you. Of course, Charles has not only been busy working with Howard Jones, where he's front of house sound, but he's also an educator and a performer and songwriter and does lots of mix work. In fact, I'm going to bring up that he's also contributed a track to our fabulous Sonic 001, which is the Sonicstate.com contributors. His track is called, now I hope I'm going to pronounce this right, New Stressors, but it's N3, it's in leak speak, so I hope I got that right. New Stressors. We were listening to that pre-show.
That's how the kids do it these days.
Apparently so, yeah. That just looks like bad grammar to me. But how are you, Charles? Are you well? You been busy?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I've been staying busy. I've been on my this is not me promoting myself, but on my own channel, my Charles Chicky Reeves channel, I've been just putting up a bunch of music and saying nothing about it. Just putting it up there, and if 10 people watch it or 100 people watch it, whatever, So I've just been posting a lot of music onto there. I've been working on the Moon Patrol video game, which probably a few more months to go on that. Doing all the music for that, a lot of cues. And I'm getting ready we're going to go back out to Real World at the end of the month to rehearse a little bit more with Howard Jones, and then we're doing a summer of the festivals, which are, so far allowed to happen, and that's basically what I've been up to. And now I'm here.
Well, that sounds like an exciting summer coming up. Well, lovely to have you, Charles. And we've also got... we haven't had Gaz for a while. Let's go to Gaz. Gaz, you're looking resplendent in a bright primary colour there. How are you, Gaz Williams, music technologist? You've been taking a bit of time off of YouTube. Are you back on it again, or are you doing a show tonight? What's going on?
Not quite. No, but hopefully we'll be back next week with the answer to the riddle of why did I buy...
there it is. That's a Super 6, isn't it?
Super 6.
The blue one.
Nice.
The blue one.
Tricky. And, not much space in your room for that.
I know. It's in prime. It's in the prime position as well now. So I've, made a big change around. But yeah, been really busy doing some underground stuff that I can't talk about, and doing some rehearsals and a lot of studio sessions as well, so I've been super busy. Been a bit too busy to do a show, But the Eurorack show that I do it will eventually make a return, but that's going to be off air for a bit. But hopefully I'm going to be back next Wednesday with my regular 8 p.m. sort of Sonic Talk after show party, the Gaz Williams show. That should be back next week with a special feature about the Super 6, and there's some quite interesting things that may not be known that I will disclose then. So,
oh, I see. Wow. Well, that sounds interesting. I think that's called a tease. In the business, yes. Well, okay, brilliant. And we also have Mr. Matt Hodson, who's their maths, aka mouse educator, modular specialist producer, a lot of stuff. He's the guy who does the live modular stuff that everybody goes, God, how do you do that? And that's him. But it's also good, and well, amongst other things.
Yeah.
I mean, I
tried to do one last night, and it. It didn't work at all because one of my USB ports decided to die as I was doing the live stream, which was annoying. So a lot of people was watching me on screen. It was sort of like going all jerky and weird, and they were probably thinking, how does he do that? I was asking myself that too. I don't know how I did it. Yeah, I've been super busy. I've just been making lots and lots of music, really enjoying just making lots of music, and slowly putting stuff out there on my Bandcamp, which I've been doing all this year. And in fact, I uploaded 2 hours of ambient music. I've started doing this thing for my subscribers on Bandcamp. Those that subscribe, they get every month they get a 1 hour piece of ambient music, totally uninterrupted, one piece of ambient music that I make. And this, it's designed for people really. If you're working, some people like to work at home. You might be a graphic designer and you don't really want to work with stuff that's got vocals in it or whatever. So it's kind of like bed ambient music. You can meditate to it. You can crank it up and mosh to it if you want to try that. Anyone ever tried moshing to ambient music out there? I don't know.
I think it depends on the substances one has ingested as to how effective or not.
It's a very slow mosh.
The slow mosh, yeah.
Yeah,
a slow mosh. That's going in the title.
That's a good title.
That's a good title. Wicked.
Slow mosh. There we go. I'm putting that in. So I do apologise for the thumping on my mic, but it's this new mic stand that I thought was a good idea and didn't think to test it. I only tested the position, and I do beg your pardon, but I'm using the Heil PR40, which is a bit different and just gives a bit more body. I think it's kind of interesting. But of course, as well as all of that, Matt has put a track out on the Sonic 001 album, which I will put a link in the show notes. I'll put that into the stream now. So,
I enjoyed being part of that. It's really cool. I've been listening to that album a lot, and the support's been really good as well. The amount of people who's been supporting it. So thanks everyone out there. You're awesome, and I personally really, really enjoy it. And I've actually messaged quite a few people who are on the album, just said how much I like it. And gosh, I think you were saying this, Nick, you was like, you really feel like you want to step up your game when you start hearing all this music, and some of the things you hear, you're like, God, my mix sounds really flat, and it's just, God, I thought I knew what I was doing, but
yeah, no, there is that is a byproduct of this being alongside a lot of other. But yes, there we go. But I forgot to mention, Gaz has also got a track on there as well, which is of course it's called Destination Next Century, Gaz. So which is he's been ambitious enough to actually make a vocal song, as a few people have. So
yeah, there's quite a few songs on there, isn't it? Yeah. I think that's a cool thing.
Right, okay, let's get... I'm getting quite a lot of feedback from somebody's speakers. I don't know where that's coming from. 1, 2?
It's not mine.
I think it might be you, Matt. I think that's what's going on. Your speakers might just be a little...
I've just turned it down.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about that. Sorry for the introduction. I'm not sorry that you did that, Matt. You can listen however works, as far as I'm concerned. As long as it doesn't get in the way. Right, okay, so let's have a look now. What have we got? Here we go. This will probably kick things off. This is the news of the Total CV Recall module, Total Recall from Endorphins. Only 3 CVs, but a fantastic voiceover. I'm not sure who did the voice, but I'm already in love with
Introducing
the sound of her voice.
Total Recall 6 HP, 3-channel preset manager, parameter sequencer, as well as macro controller. This is multifunctional controller, which can work in 4 different modes. Modes 1 and 2 correspond to the preset manager, and modes 3 and 4 to the macro. In the first mode, we can
There is quite a long explanation of this, which is made much more easy listening because she's just such a great voice. There's something about the Russian voice or Eastern European voice speaking English that is just really captivating, I think. And there's a bit of ASMR going on there, I think, as well, because she's very close to the mic. But it's very interesting. Module, and it doesn't go as far as perhaps I would like things to go, because I think, with only 3 you're limited, but it allows you to preset hard switch, morph between them, sequence them. There's all sorts of ways. It's quite complex. There's a lot of mode switching, but it does bring up the question about what this kind of stuff has. Does this have a place in modular? Because essentially, people turn to modular for the more of the hands-on, less about the repeatability. But then that's maybe for the composition. But if you're playing live, now we've got people like Richard Devine going back and kind of go, well, I'm actually just using loads of sample modules, sampling these kind of long passages because I know I'll never be able to recreate that, or I don't want to bring an entire case just for that sound if I'm traveling on a plane or whatever. Less of that going on. So I feel I probably should come to you first, Matt, seeing as you're you're active in modular more, and then I'll come to you guys because I know you probably have thoughts on this as well.
I can say a lot about this, but as you might have known, if you've been following me on YouTube, I've been going down the rabbit hole of creating a case which is in front of me, which is portable, it's powerful. I can take it on a plane, I can rock up at a gig and play live with no computer, and what you hear all comes from that. And the reason I do that, it's important for me. If I'm playing live, I want to play live. And some people say that electronic music isn't actually performance art, and you could debate that. But being able to play live in that essence of playing live is really important to me. If I turn a dial, it does something. I'm not using any backing tracks. I'm not using any pre-recorded material. Maybe a kick drum sample. And that's about it. So that's important to me. Now, does that mean that's for everyone? No. I've got a system here that's constantly repatched and unpatched and reworked. But I think what you're coming on to, Nick, is, and you're talking about there's a lot of people wanting to play live with these things and basically keep that consistency in their sound. When you turn up and play at a gig, you want that signature sound. What is it that I go see that person for? It's their signature sound. It's that thing that I gravitate to. So that's why it's important for me to have a case that, I guess, carries my sound, which I think I'm getting because I'm using this now, and all the material I've been putting out this year has come from this.
Yeah.
So if I turn up at a gig, that's what people will hear. That's the same sort of thing, the same modules, the same kind of distortion use, the same sort of compression and things like that. It's all coming from there. This module looks really exciting though. It's small, 6 HP. I've got a lot of Endorphin stuff. I'm very, very happy with their stuff, actually. I've got their mixers. I've got their Godspeed oscillator, which has got a self-tune on it, by the way. It's the only oscillator you press a button and it tunes itself to nearest A, which is really cool. And this, again, just like I'm always thinking, how can you misuse this? What can you do with it other than just recalling CV? What if you pump audio through it or something like that?
Yeah, there seems to be, when you look at it, you go, oh, actually, you could use this for all sorts of other things.
You could.
There's lots of functionality that it will offer. Excuse me.
Yeah. And I did mention, I think I emailed you earlier, Nick, about James Holden, who's a absolute wizard in all aspects of music production. And I was fortunate enough to spend a bit of time with him and interview him. And I remember back in the day, he came up with this system for recalling modular synth presets using, imagine, I couldn't find a picture of it, but imagine this disc about this big, and it had all these solder points on it, dabs of solder, and he would rotate this disc, and the solder points.
You sent me that picture.
Yeah, that's what it kind of transformed into. I think that's the later version. And you can see in the top right-hand corner, there's this kind of big long dial there. So that would rotate and create new contact points between different cables and different parts of the modular system. So it's a preset manager for hardware modular synthesizer. I mean, that's just how forward thinking and crazy and amazing James is. He's an absolute wizard at this kind of stuff. But I don't think he uses it anymore. I think he got past that and just went down the sort of pre-patched route like I've gone, because there is a lot you can do if you're willing to spend the time and think about it. You can build this instrument that you can take on the road and have in the studio, and it'd be very, very flexible. I guess that's my view on this anyway.
Well, I mean, I think that's the thing, though. When I was looking at this, it's just like there's so many brilliant kind of possibilities to use this for. I think did I write a few down? I'm just thinking if I did. No, I didn't. I just think, but purists may find this an anathema. I'm going to go to Gaz. I'm not saying you're a purist, Gaz, but I mean, I know that you're very much of the kind of the now with this stuff. I mean, you know, the way that you approach this is really about it. It's about being in the flow. It's about doing the thing. But it's a different. But if you were to take your construction, your noodlings, or you went back and you kind of go, well, actually, I'm going to try and make tracks out of this, then something like this might be something that you would have to consider.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's important to understand with this particular module that it is still very kind of performance orientated. You know, and it's using kind of preset CV values for kind of, you know, triggering certain events. But, you know, I mean, maybe a purer version of the modular recall, I suppose, is the Polyend preset, because that as a, you know, because it's much more capacious and can handle, what is it? It's got nine CV outs on there, and you can store, I think, is it 32 banks of 32 presets or something, so you can, that could really do the whole kind of shebang, I think. Whereas I think this one is more of an adjunct to what you're doing, so it could be very useful in just as a helping hand, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm currently on a bit of a little modular mission at the moment, and I'm working on a track where it's way more complex than anything that I've done so far in the modular world. So I was kind of thinking about this module and the Polyend preset one as well as sort of, oh yeah, okay, so this is quite a way of just composing and then locking down parts of the composition.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Yeah,
you know, so that's one way of kind of thinking about that. But yeah, I mean, I'm still sort of in, like, you know, nappies really when it comes to my Eurorack journey. So, you know, I'd imagine if you're a lot further down the line, you know, then this sort of stuff is going to become, you know, much more desirable. But I think for me, I'm just, I'm enjoying, one of the things that I enjoy most about modular, I think, is when I get something going then that starts to become something more than I could have thought, and then I start to lose control of it. And it's that sort of point where I'm starting to lose control of it. That's my favourite bit. So that's quite, so that's a bit of an anathema to sort of, you know, having, I suppose, things which are...
I don't know, Chicky. I mean, you know, when you're working to deadlines, media composition, you know, we've spoken to many people about this, that, you know, what you end up doing is kind of not reaching for the modular stuff. You stick to the thing that is more convenient, you know, you deal with that.
Yes.
But you've got a matrix brute, haven't you, which is a sort of, has a lot of that going on, and I still think that the matrix brute center section with 16IO would make a fantastic thing for being a brain for all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, in fact, I'm certain you can use it as a brain for that. I gotta say though, I'm totally lost on modular stuff. You know, just because so much of what I do absolutely requires being able to completely recall something. You know, whether it's doing film stuff or, you know, even, you know, I remember when OMD was going to do, I don't remember which anniversary it was, but it was one of the big anniversary shows, and they were talking, you get like our synths that we used on this particular song and bring it out, you know, we'll patch it all together. And after about 10 minutes of talking about it, we're all like, no, I don't think so. I think we'll stick to just having samples of this stuff that we did, because I we talked about this, I think, last time I was on, about we were talking about the circuit, the new innovation, and the idea of like something having so much friction before the creativity. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't deal with that. So that's why I just don't really know anything about modular stuff. Synthesis, regular subtractive synthesis.
That makes total sense. Total sense. I totally understand that. I just wanted to point out in the chat room with Mr. Wiggly, aka Dom, is there, as well as Inky the Cat, and Dom is doing a great Sunday streams, and he's going to be interviewing Inky on. Oh, actually, let me get the.
It's good to know.
Let me just post that link. So check that out. I think Sunday night. So if you get over to his channel, subscribe, you'll be able to find out. He was very kind and plugging of our stuff last week. So I feel I want to replicate that. It's very very good of him. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I think this is kind of an interesting idea, and I think again it comes down to what you're using it for. Like I say, it's perhaps at the more complex something like this becomes, the less likely you're going to be using it at the point of composition. But for performing the compositions, then it definitely makes sense. And I just really like the idea of a matrix. I mean, we've seen there are a few of these things out there in the world, but I think it comes down to the expense of having that many A to D, D to A's, where you could just say, take these three inputs, sum them to that output, and attenuate it by such and such an amount. Just really easy. It's the kind of matrix brute approach in a module would be very cool. I think there are things.
But a civilization by Yuhi is a bit
this is similar, but it's not as easzy to program. I'm just thinking that's what I'm thinking. Sorry, Matt.
There was one collaboration with Future Sound Systems and Thingy from Mute Records. They put one together, which I think essentially does what you just said there, Nick. Which
it's allows, a switcher,
loads of switcher, stroke, sort of morphing between CV preset kind of thing, which was quite useful. And I can't remember the name of it. It looked pretty cool though.
Is it MTX?
No, not
pin,
that.
No,
that's
not the pin matrix.
That's the patch point thing, like a little matrix that made. But he definitely worked on one with my crikey, I can't believe I've forgotten his name.
Legendary
Miller. Daniel Miller. Thank you very much. I'm dude.
Just looking for it here. Gristleizer, Future Sound System Modular. Let's have a look. These things. Yes, I remember we did look at it at. We did look at it at one of the at the last Super Booth, I think, but I can't remember what it was called, and it doesn't seem to be listed there as a thing. So I know it's prototype, but yeah. Anyway, it's an interesting concept. Well, I should probably just have a quick word from our friends over at Isotope at this point. So take a break, everybody, or even Modal. Wrong button. A voice-extended virtual analog synth innovated oscillator with 34 algorithms, morphable 4-pole ladder filter, this is the Cobalt 8, internal sequencer and arpeggiator, MPE support for expression, there's a Modal app for Mac and Windows. In fact, there's a new OS that got released for the Cobalt 8. I think there's a bunch of presets they released too, well worth checking out. Also a very handsome-looking instrument. If you want to find out more, go to bit.ly/get_modal. Excellent. True professional here. There we go. I have this kind of constantly going variable because I play one and then the other on alternative weeks, and I just thought, yeah, that's the other one, and it was not. It was the other one, so I do beg your pardon. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Yes, let's get on to another topic. This is
spot, right, and our brain is just hearing.
This is Gregory Scott
coming from the same direction over and over. It gets imprinted in our
House of Kush YouTube channel. This is a really interesting piece, which is how to keep perspective on mixes, how to retain, and also.
Jesus Christ, my kick drum is just like way off to the left. Yeah. How did I?
It's a long video, but it's an interesting discussion video where he basically discusses, things that can make you. When we're listening to a mix, we're sent to be either in front of our speakers or on a pair of headphones, and we end up in this situation where we're just constantly listening with the same perspective, and so we become almost what's the word? Certain flaws become invisible to us because they become normalised because we're watching it. And he's just there's a few tips in there that sort of say what to do to kind of break that, and so that you listen it afresh without getting into a rut. And I think that was kind of where we were getting. I was going to come to you, Charles, because you said, "Oh, I've got something to say on mix," because you do a lot of mixing, and I guess when you're doing it professionally, sometimes if one hasn't got maybe the full vision in your head, you have to kind of, I'm not saying that that's necessarily what happens, but sometimes, one is not having the best day, so one has to kind of consider things about your perspective. Am I doing the right thing? Okay, let's have a listen to it in this perspective. Do you find you do that a lot yourself?
Yes. So I do. There's a few different things. I mean, I've got, even here, I've got 2 different sets of headphones, 3 sets of speakers plus a Bluetooth speaker, which he mentions in that video.
Yeah, something that's in a
I've,
different position. Yeah,
I've got the little Bose. What is this? The companion? I don't know I forgot what this. A SoundLink. No, I don't know what it's called. Anyway, it's
Bose
really
thing. Yeah.
The SoundLink Mini, yeah. I think I bought it at an airport somewhere, but it sounds really good, and I just run, a cable into it. Or sometimes I'll just put stuff on my phone, go listen to a different part of the house. But the most useful thing I find is yes, I'll be working on a track. Like say, for instance, yesterday I was working on a track about 12 hours or so. And after about 4 hours, perspective starts going a little bit amiss. And so, if I just go sit over there on the sofa, keep the music at I don't ever mix louder than 85 dB unless it's a live show. Then I mix a lot louder than that. But in here, I never go over 85 dB. It's usually closer to about 78, something like that. And I'll just keep it nice and low, go sit on the sofa, do my email, whatever, just try not to focus on the song. And that's every time. That's how I hear stuff. I do use some reference mixes and things like that, but by and large, I have a pretty good idea of where things should be sitting. But the main thing is about the perspective is, going to even different parts of the same room helps a lot.
Yeah.
Back there, or if I go into the loo, not to give too much information here, but if I go into the loo in there, that's because the back wall of my studio is what they call a leaky wall. So it's a wall, and I've got 2 doors that I can slightly open, and low frequency will escape into those 2 back rooms, and it keeps this room quite balanced. I'll go and just stand in the loo sometimes and just listen to see what I'm hearing, and all that like sub stuff, and I'm talking, 30 hertz and below. That's when I really hear if there are problems. And it's interesting because you can listen to like something that's mixed really well, like the Daft Punk album with, Get Lucky. And you go and you stand in the loo and listen, and you go, oh, they should put a high pass filter on some of those vocal parts. It's like you can hear some of the plosives and things like that. So it's like, but if I'm sitting here at the 38% mark, which is where I try to be in the room. If I sit in the 38% mark, I don't hear a lot of that stuff. I do hear the presence of these speakers, but I don't really
get the bottom end. Yeah, for going further away often makes that difference, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So to recap with what he's saying and how that plays into this is that yes, going and standing in different places, having different speakers to listen on. I use the Oratones, or I use the Yamaha HS5s, or like I said, the Bluetooth speaker, and I've got noise canceling headphones. I've got the Bowers and Wilkins. I'm constantly shifting things around because otherwise I'll just start thinking that something is sounding quite normal. When in reality, it's like all that 20 hertz coming from a kick drum. That doesn't really need to be there that much. So yeah, perspective is everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an interest. There's some great tips in there. Well, incidentally, apparently, this is one thing that he mentioned is 85 dB is the optimum human listening level where we hear all frequencies evenly. So that's something,
Yes.
you can get like a little thing on your phone and stuff. I don't know. I mean, you're in a residential place, I don't suppose you really crank it up that often. I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I mean, do you find that you sit at a listening point that somehow correlates with that? I mean, how do you tackle this?
Yeah, very good point. I've got a dim switch, and I've got like a kind of, I'll always put the volume to a particular place, and then you can kind of decide where the dim switch level is. So, and I've got that, and I never change that now. So I try to maintain, especially for mastering, that constant listening level or the dim level, and so just those two levels. This is an interesting point in that video, and he's brilliant, isn't he? Gregory Scott, the guy.
Yeah, really good.
He's so good.
Great plugins
He talks
too.
about I've never tried them, the plugins. Yeah,
Clairphonic is fantastic. I love Clairphonic. I use that on just about every single mix. So just, it's not a plug. I'm just letting you know. I think it's fantastic stuff.
But he says one little tip he does mention about is to just to flip the left and right over in sorry to give you the V's, to flip the left and right over so your left comes out the right, so you hear the mix flipped. And that's quite a cool way of just spotting if anything is out of place, just because you get so used to it. I thought that was well explained in that video. I think that's quite a cool technique. I'll definitely be employing that a bit more. But I'm also going to check that 85 dB level and just see how close my listening level is to that 85 dB. Quite fascinated about that.
Interesting.
And I was just going to say about perspective, though, as we're all aware of this. Perspective is so hugely important, and yes, and I employ very much those things. I walk to the back of the room. I've got a set of monitors that are perpendicular to these ones, and I can stand and appreciate a very different space, and all of that stuff is super useful, as is kind of getting slightly inebriated and returning to a mix as well. And I don't mean that lightly. I mean, I think that is super helpful, because it kind of gives you a shift in perspective, and you notice things, or rather maybe don't notice a lot of things and go, oh, it's all right, it's done.
It's funny though, the psychological shift is quite interesting, because I find myself, it's like I'm working on something and I just go, oh yeah, just have a listen to this. I play it to someone and I'm listening at it at a different perspective, and I'm noticing all the things that perhaps I didn't realise I was so insecure about. I see you nodding your head there, Matt. I mean,
big one, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, you mix a lot, but you also, the thing is what you do is you also mix live. If you're performing, that's the mix that you're getting. So there's a certain amount of averaging that you must do in that. But when you mix, do you kind of approach it differently?
For this kind of stuff, I'm mixing, I'm writing, I'm producing all at the same time, and then I'll just record it down stereo track. I'll stick it on my Apple Cloud, and then I'll go take a walk and listen to it later on, and that gives me perspective on it. Then I come back and I think, okay, I could have maybe tweaked this, done that. Then I have another go, and I just keep doing that until I've got the take that I'm happy with, the mix that I'm happy with. And that's it. That's kind of it for that, because I guess it kind of reflects what most electronic music producers do anyway, which is they are mixing as they are writing. It's very rare for somebody to write electronic music and they put plugins on as they go: reverbs, delays, compression, EQ, the right presets from Serum or whatever they're using. It's very unusual for them to write that track, then take everything off, and then reapproach it with that, starting from fresh again. So I guess it's kind of like a mirror of that. But in terms of studio stuff, any studio stuff that I've done with bands, and I did that for a long time. I don't tend to work with bands so much anymore, but most of the mixes I always thought worked the best with the monitor mixes, the reference mixes that we got on the day in the studio. We always seem to be chasing to get back to that reference. We'd go, oh yeah, check this out. There was something, yeah, we like that. Let's try and get that back. And it's like, well, we have it. It's there. So I started spending a lot more time doing those reference mixes before we left the studio. The band, you can go finish if you want. I'd spend an extra hour maybe just sweetening up what was a monitor mix. And 9 times out of 10, we'd end up using that for sure. So You know, the other thing is I wanted to say is I've always found that, and maybe everyone agrees with this, I don't know, but when I go back and listen to a mix that I put out a month ago, 2 months ago, which I've been doing, because as you know, I'm putting out tracks every month, and I go back and I listen to that track again, there's a whole new perspective because we have surrendered to it. We've gone, this is it. I can't change it. The world's listening to it. It's already out there. I can't tweak a thing on it. It is what it is. And that brings with it a whole other perspective, which is, well, it's done. Live with it. You know, is it really that bad? Yeah, you might hear some things where you think, oh, it's a bit lumpy, or the kick drums could just push it a little bit more. But you know what? I think you're always going to find that. I've managed to be in the room with some world-class mixers in my time, and they're always talking about their mixes. Oh yeah, it was, you know, number one song. Yeah, it's great, but I just wish that hi-hat had just, you know, and I'm like, really? Okay, you know, so they hear all that thing. They hear that same kind of thing. And Cheeky, what you've got that little radio, you know, I remember being in Olympic Studios with Chenzo Townsend. He just finished mixing U2. And he spent most of the time mixing it on one of those little boom boxes. And then every now and then he'd whack it on the big speakers, and then he'd go back. I've never really been a fan of multiple speakers, I must admit. It's never worked. If anything, it confuses me more when I jump from one set of speakers to another. I don't know. It freaks me out. Headphones I will use. I tend to use headphones more for reverbs, because I'm not really in this treated room at the moment. Reverbs and things I'll use. I'll hear them better on headphones. It just gives me that. And I also do listen to things on my Apple AirPods, which is what I listen to most of my music on as I'm walking around. So I sometimes will just pump that out through Bluetooth as I'm playing along, and I'm hearing what it's going to sound like on a pair of earbuds that I know. And so the last point will be, which is getting to know your earbuds, getting to know your monitors and the room that you're in. Everyone says this so much, but once you nail that, you could have a very basic pair of monitors, as long as they've got a good range on them and there's no real massive lumps in them or something. You can learn them, and you can learn your room, and you can hear what's going on, and then you can work with that as well.
Yeah, I would totally agree. The one question that came up while you were talking, Chicky, is because you're used to mixing on large PA systems, do you ever chase that vibe sometimes when you're mixing in the studio? Do you ever find you're kind of inadvertently chasing something that you know you could hear on a bigger system? There's some indiscernible amount, because I mean they're very, very different experiences. I mean, generally when one listens to a PA, you really get to hear what's going up, you know, and the dynamics. It's a very different listening experience.
Yeah, it does sound a little bit like a chicken or egg thing. A Chicky or egg thing, but I actually mix live based on what I hear in the studio. So the live is actually chasing the studio. So one of the things that gets me a lot of work for live mixing is that I tend to not really mix for a PA. I tend to mix it as if it's a gigantic hi-fi. And so usually the detail and so forth, you know, and even vibe that I get in the studio is what I'm trying to recreate live. But the thing is, like with live, there is a lot of masking that goes on. So, you know, like say for instance, if you're mixing at Royal Albert Hall, you know, I hope you like 110 hertz a lot, because that's, you know, the room is full of that, and you pull it out, and suddenly it's completely missing. It's like, it's very difficult to, that's a hard room to mix in. So, I mean, I know I'm just roundabout way answering the question, but I tend to mix live chasing what I hear in the studio as opposed to the other way around. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that does. It does. Yeah, thank you very much.
I'll tell you what, I'd really love to know, Chicky. I don't know if you know much about how Howard Jones mixed his stuff back in the 80s, but I mean, I love Howard Jones stuff. I think it's awesome, particularly, his use of synthesizers, his bass synthesizer, the things that are mainly doing the low end in it, even like What Is Love, the chorus, that bass that happens in there. I'd love to, we probably ain't got time now, but I'd love to know more about how he approached his mixing back in the day with all those synths and drum machines, and particularly with that voice in there as well.
Yeah, it's funny. Like for mixing him live, for one thing, he's very easy to mix live because not only does he sing really well and play really well, most of the music, yes, it's all coming out on stems as far as music that's on playback. It's coming out on stems, but it's just so well. Like he and Robbie together have really made it. It sounds like an LP. I mean, it just sounds beautiful. And when we're doing rehearsals, he'll come over to where I am, and he's like, "Oh, you've got it really sounding great." And I'm like,
I'm not doing anything.
I'm just pushing up faders. I'm glad you like it, but it's all on you. You've given me such good work. Such good music, and it's like that with just about anybody I've mixed for. Like with Grace Jones, her band was just, they were phenomenal, and they had just great equipment, and they mastered it all. They mastered their instruments so well. And yeah, we had like 40 something mics on stage, but it just all sounded great. And OMD, they work really hard on getting all the sounds just right. And then, I'm just trying to make sure I don't get in the way of it. That's how I approach it.
Don't mess it up. Yeah.
Don't mess it up.
This feels like a good time to actually return to our friends over at Isotope, who will help you with your mixing as well. They've got lots of tools that will.
Isotope Producers Club is a one-of-a-kind membership for producers ready to take their tracks to the next level. Once you join, you'll gain access to powerhouse Isotope plugins and a curated selection of tools from our partners, such as Melodyne from Celemony. Plus, as long as you're a member, you'll get every future update to the Isotope plugins in your membership for no extra cost. We'll also regularly serve you new curated content like exclusive inspiration-sparking sample packs and preset packs, and industry-leading training ranging from our own tutorials to vocal production lessons from the world-renowned Berklee Online, taught by Grammy-winning producer and engineer Prince Charles Alexander. With new content being added every month full of valuable production techniques, tips and tricks, and solutions to common production problems, becoming a member is an investment in your career that grows as you and your career do. For more information on Isotope Producers Club, head to isotope.com.
And of course, there's always the Music Production Suite Pro as well, which is another subscription level that you can try. But if you're interested in saving 10% on any of their software products, you can head over to isotope.com/sonictalk and enter the code Sonic10 at checkout. Save 10%, which is still running on any Isotope plugin or bundle. Sadly, the 49 community bundle. $1 community bundle is gone, but you can't have it. It was there for a long time, so we thank Isotope for supporting us and sponsoring the show. Very much appreciated. Okay, let me see what do we have next. Gregory Scott. Oh yeah, we've got to.
How do we play synthesizers?
It's more Russian voiceovers.
A timbre by adjusting various parameters, and then we just play the keyboard like on a piano. Something is missing,
Reflex.
Isn't there? And this something may be the most powerful part of synthesis, the huge flexibility of a synthesis core that makes it possible to play the timbre as artistically and expressively as we play notes.
Another bonkers idea from Mr. Vlad Keimer. I think the idea between this is there's some analog stuff going on in that, but what you see on the left by the hand are lots of patch points that allow for quite sensitive sonic control. It's a 6-voice synthesizer based on a certain amount of Lyra business going on. Yeah, I think I wrote down, I'm already interested and it's only a box of wires. Now, this is it takes these approaches, and this looks really interesting. Apart from the one thing that I really do hope it has is the ability to kind of go snapshot that Stop there. That's what I want. I want that. Can I have that back again? Which kind of brings us back to this kind of notion of recall and stuff. Gaz, I mean, we're fans of the Soma stuff. I don't know if you had a chance to play with
massive.
the Pulsar 23. I mean, you know, the Lyra, they're just brilliant, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And this one, I mean, I think is fantastic how all of those instruments that you mentioned, and the pipe, of course, you know, are just completely take you out of your normal place and take you into a completely new sonic realm. And it doesn't play by any of the typical, you know, the typical things you'd find. So it's... this looks like, so then to expand that kind of idea into a polyphonic synthesizer, a big part of this then is that you've got a bunch of controls on your left hand, side, which kind of are directly manipulating synthesizer parameters, as opposed to I was trying to work out exactly. It is a bit baffling. What is it now? All 6 voices are all 6 monophonic voices that have got their own effects, and the control panel on the left lets you just help me out here. I don't
actually know, to be honest.
I gotta be honest. In the last half of the video, there, Vlad plays it for some time, and it just sounded like Stockhausen at times, and I just thought it sounded fantastic. But I'm really not quite understanding exactly what's going on. But coming from Vlad and coming, you know, and the next one in line of these fantastic instruments, it is going to just, you know, it's going to be an amazing, amazing experience. I think I want one already.
Yeah, well, I can concur with that. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think it seems to me that what's going on there to a degree is it's almost like, you know, because we've seen the Osmos, we've seen these kind of like this need to have this sensitive control of the sound. It's just an alternative view of that, you know. Rather, Osmos is going to be coming out hopefully this summer, you know, which will see quite a lot of fantastic controllability there, and this is just another angle on that concept, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, they've the interesting thing here is you've got 6 voices. Each voice has got 6 effects, but these aren't just effects that are just put on at the end. They're part of the synthesis engine. So the voice and the effects sort of interact together in this really interesting way. I was reading a bit about the specs and things like the clocking on it, and the very, very low latency as well. The touchpads that are put to where your fingers would naturally sit as well. So they're really looking at this as a kind of an instrument that's got the same sort of nuance as if you was playing something like a violin or something like that. How sensitive it is, I wonder if it's going to be too sensitive. I wonder if, you can, like you were saying, Nick, I wonder if you can kind of freeze or say particular
stop
sound
there.
that you're after.
Can I have that back?
Yeah, I'll just have that. Yeah, I like that. I think that is important.
I doubt it, knowing
but
them.
At the same time, it's also very freeing, isn't it? When you can, it's kind of freeing when you can't always get back to where you want. I mean, I've got the Pulsar, and obviously you can connect it up in many, many different ways. But every time I turn it on, it's ready to go, and I always have this kind of thing set up on it where it creates its own inverted VCA. So whenever the kick drum happens, everything else sort of, it does this side chaining within it, which is quite interesting. So I'm wondering if there's going to be any sort of flexibility here in terms of, I mean, I didn't see any patch points or anything like that, but
maybe it's too early for that. I don't know, but yeah,
maybe it's too early. And I wonder if the human is actually the patch points.
I think so. Interestingly,
things.
I'm not seeing the word organismic in this one, which is something that's been applied to the other stuff. So maybe this is a new breed. I know, Charles. I mean, I don't know. Have you got any? Have you got any of the Soma stuff?
No. Again, I'm kind of lost on that. But I did want to say that because we've had 2 of these videos with the Eastern European Russian accent, and because this is called Reflex, it does remind me of one day my daughter was doing some kind of stretching thing where she was like on her back, and she's 14, she's a kid, so she was able to like have her make her feet touch the floor behind her head. I was just like, wow, you are incredibly flexible. And she goes, I am flexible because I am child. So she does a great Russian accent like that. So that's what I kept thinking every time I saw this. I am flexible because I'm child. I think, it seemed like it. I mean, maybe I'm missing it. It seemed like the way he had that his palm was making.
Yeah, there was connection through the fingers. I think that's what it looks like. Yeah, looking at.
So it's like palm and the fingers, and also it seemed like the more. So it's variable on the connection, maybe of the palm as like the
ground point. Yeah.
Yeah, the ground point, or maybe the other way around. Maybe voltage is coming out through the palm, so you're the more I don't know how that would work, but that could be a really expressive tool. I mean, that's the idea behind it is that it's an expressive tool. But I started thinking like just ways I could use something like that to control effects, because I love doing crazy things with effects, especially live.
Maybe it will have an external input, and there'll be that. I mean, I think there's more to come from Vlad. Obviously, Vlad has a very unusual perspective on things, and it seems to chime well with. So, I mean, there are some things which I know that Ty really swears by the Lyra 8, but I wonder how often he actually uses it, because again, there is a certain amount of friction just to get it tuned into the world that you might want to use it in, and that can be a bit problematic for some people who just need to grab something and get on with it at the time. So yeah, I totally get your point there.
I was actually just talking to Ty this morning, kind of about that exactly. Not about the Lyra, but he said that because he's building this third room, and there's some like amazing synth. Obviously, his collection is unbelievable. He said there's some synths that are just like, you go in, it's just, oh my gosh, this is such an amazing synth. This is great. And then he turns it off and doesn't really touch it again, because it's just like, setting it all up, it's like, oh.
But there are things that works with. But yeah, I suppose actually, I mean, speaking of new synths, there's also we covered this before, the Korg Mod Wave, which seems to have just hit all of the reviewers. They're doing that kind of day zero review stuff, which we haven't actually been in touch. We're not part of that club anymore, I don't think, or for whatever reason. But that's an interesting thing. I mean, again, the Korg Mod Wave is the wave. It's a wavetable, I think, isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's wavetable.
It's basically like it's like an ASM, isn't it? It's like the Hydrosynth, sort of their take on the Hydrosynth. That's what I understand. Yeah.
He in that statement about that particular one, he said something about this isn't wavetable, this isn't sounds from the past. I think they're very much thinking of this as forward thinking what did he call it? Maths. Reciprocal synthesis or something like that.
Oh yeah, there's some great quotes.
Really cool. I just love the fact that there is a company like this in existence that is making music production hardware. I'm really excited every time I see something coming out by these guys, and I think we're really fortunate that we've got people like this pumping out this kind of stuff. And I think with things like the Lyra, I think that was very much testing the waters. And for me, I always saw the Lyra as like, this company's just maybe trialing out a few things here. Let's see what's going to come 5-10 years down the line with this company, because I think there's going to be some super duper exciting stuff.
Well, they sold a lot. They've sold a lot of stuff. I mean, that they're having their waiting list is quite long, and they I think they make decent money. Haven't the Gaz? Is it right? They've got some sort of Zanzibar synth holiday destination on the go at the moment, which I'm sure I saw something on Facebook that said it's like a synth resort for creative people. They're trying to get people to go. Obviously, at the moment it's difficult with COVID and whatever, but once that opens, they say, yeah, come on over, play gigs, do whatever you want here. Sort of very interesting bunch of people.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if you're interested in getting a little bit of insight into Vlad, I really love the interview that I did with him at Superbooth, where we went away from the main drag and went out into the woods and sat cross-legged opposite each other. I wanted to really kind of connect with him about some of the more philosophical aspects of the designs. And I love that interview. I really recommend watching that. I found it totally delightful talking to him. He's really inspiring.
I'm just going to put I'll put the link in the show notes now. Hold on, I'll turn that off.
Yeah, nice. because he is a proper artist. You know, he's an artist who works in various, you know, with various formats. He's a creative dancer. You know, as am I, and he. You know, he's a full artist, so he sees the instrument design as part of just another part of his art. And,
he's got a very deep philosophical kind of view on it. We've both interviewed. I think I interviewed him a couple of years previously, and just he's very interesting. He's got a spiritual thing with electronics, which I know that Bob Moog had that in common as well. He was sort of felt that electronics would impart some sort of spirituality, and so they definitely have. And I've banged on about this before, but when I opened up the Lyra 8 because we had it in for review, you look inside. It's a thing. I mean, just the inside is beautiful. It's a beautifully wired, everything's kind of feels like it's over specified and just kind of, you know, chunky, and you know it's great. You know, so you don't get cheap rubbish.
There is that video, isn't there, that's come out recently from
about the Pulsar 23,
about the making of it, and they talk about, and Vlad actually talks about that, doesn't he, about the aesthetics of the circuit board in that video too.
I'm just seeing if I can find that one as well. Pulsar 23 making of. No, I can't find it now. It's gone. There's too many Pulsar. But yeah, it's cool. Anyway, gosh, we're at 5 o'clock. I'm going to have to cut things a little short, just purely because I've been informed I've got to do a bit of dad taxi business, and also I need to get back for the football. But it's been great fun to talk to you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Charles, thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure. I hope to speak to you again soon.
I was just going to say before we go, tomorrow night, if anybody's got the time, I'm going to be on Mark Zaffin's Zaffin Music channel, talking about the weird songs that I make and you know, the production behind all that stuff. So there you go. Self-promotion. Mark Zaffin's channel. So
Let me. Oh, in conversation, right? Okay, hold on. I'm going to get that. Grab that. Yep, there we are. Let's bring that up. That's here. So Zaffin Music. This one, music live stream. Okay,
yeah, that looks like me.
Into the comments. It certainly does. Right. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Charles. That's great. And thank you very much, Wagyu, for the generous drinks fund. This is going to be a great party when we finally get together, everybody. And also, Mr. Matt Hodson, thank you for joining us as well. So, have you got any more streams coming up? Are you now you fixed your cameras? Are you going to have another crack at it? Or are you?
Yeah, probably.
Are
I need to do part 2 on this, my modular setup. They want to know how it's all patched together, how I keep it pre-patched, how I do the mixing, how I do the side chaining, how I do all that kind of stuff. So I was meant to do it last night. I'll probably end up doing it tomorrow night or Friday night, something like that. I don't know. I don't really plan these. I just kind of tend to just go live. But I'll certainly be doing some and continue putting out music every month and just keeping busy doing music. Loving it at the minute.
Yes, well, I can thoroughly concur. I was going to go on a bit because we've got just a couple of things that are coming up. We've got Rich's Sonic album interview, which is I'm going to probably publish tomorrow. Also, I've got a Friday Fun ready to go, which I used Paul X Stretch. Now that's a blast for the past, and I'd never figured out how to use it. I was running the Krotos Audio Concept 2 synth into it, and it blew my mind actually, so I'll definitely be going there. But Gaz, thank you very much for joining us as well. People will be able to see you on your channel when you're back on the streaming tip as well, I'm sure.
Yes, hopefully next Wednesday with the Super 6, because my goodness, am I having fun with our little beauty. But
it's a lovely instrument, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
They did say that I could hang on to the one that I've got here for a while they were, you know, while it was in for review, and then they said, actually, can we pick it up? We need to send it off to somebody, and they said, well, we'll drop it back again. You know, you can have this one's the floating one that you can keep control of while we don't need it. But I never got it, so I had my time was limited. I can't, you know, I don't expect to ever get freebies or anything. But they said it was an extended loan, but they loaned it back.
What was amazing for me though was I decided to buy it. I mean, I'm friends with George. I'll talk about this next week. But when I got it and I got it out of the box and I put it on the table downstairs and got the manual out and just opened it up, and on the acknowledgements, both you and me are acknowledged, and I was super pleased to see myself.
Oh, that's
I've been
great.
involved.
Yeah.
I have been involved in that since the beginning, that synth. I will tell this story next week, but seeing it go from, just an idea into reality, and it really, now spending time with it as well, I kind of go, this is a visionary instrument, and George Hearn is definitely
focused.
he's managed to, so
the thing I really liked about it as well, it comes in a big cloth bag. It hasn't.
Big bag.
Most synths you get, they come there in polythene wrap. This comes in a big cloth bag with drawstring bag. It's like a laundry bag, but the size of a keyboard. It's brilliant.
It is. Yeah. But I mean, I am. I really didn't need another synth. But I now couldn't live without this one.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. Anyway, thanks everybody. It's been a great pleasure. We will see you all next week, hopefully. If you're interested, don't forget to subscribe to Sonicstate. Don't forget also we're on Patreon where we get the pre-show and other ad-free stuff, as well as many other things. But that's it for this week. We'll say see you next time. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Go England.
Yeah.